So this right here is one of my favorite quotes. It's from Hamlet, from the play Shakespeare, who was a so-called black man. He was a Moor. He wrote this play Hamlet, and it was a bit of advice in which, one of the people in the show or the play Hamlet, known as Polonius, he gives his son, I think it's Laertes, he gives his son Laertes some advice in regards to living and operating outside of a credit-based system. So he says, my father told me neither a borrower nor a lender be, and I have always followed that advice. That's probably been my trouble. So the understanding of this is just going into operating outside of a credit-based system, because when it says that's probably been my trouble, it's just talking about operating outside of, the advantages of a credit-based system, or more so the illusion of an advantage or the illusion of, being in a financially stable state just because you're operating within the framework of a society. But we understand that this society is credit based. It's not based in you actually being sovereign or, money that's flowing properly just when it comes to a stable economy, because everything is based on credit. The money that we spend, the money that we use is called fiat money. So when we spend money, we just levy in taxes. We issue in a credit. You're either the creditor or the creditee. So when it says neither a borrower or a lender be, that's what it's going into. Don't be a creditor or a creditee. So the trouble that you operate in is you operating outside of that system, because it's hard for you to advance, because you have to be in this system. You have to be a part of, the hamster wheel per se. You have to be a part of the machine. And if you outside of the machine, it's going to be hard for you to advance. It's going to be hard for you to have any sort of financial advantages. And that's how it works just when it comes to the understanding of this society. And this is what it's going into just when it comes to this quote here. That's been my trouble. What's been his trouble? His trouble is not being able to succeed properly because he's not operating within the system that is credit. This society is based off of credit. This whole society is based off of credit. And it started in 1913 with the Federal Reserve. And since then, everything just been based off of credit. When they print money, all that does is inflate. It's just inflation. Gold and silver was outlawed in 1933 and 1965, respectively, therefore plunging us into deep debt. Everybody is a debt slave. So based off of this quote here, that's what it's going into. And this is just a good, backdrop or a good fodder for me to start with, just so we can go into the content of what this is about in regards to this video, that being the financial aspect, that being the credit-based society that we live in. I touched on it before, but I just wanted to touch on it more, just going off of this quote here. So just as we establish, as we understand the quote, or, we cover the quote, it's just going into the aspect of operating outside of this credit-based society where, it's easier to thrive per se. But that's all an illusion, because everything is based in the negative. Just when it comes to what we issue, what we spend, it's all in the negative. It's not backed by anything. So it's all an illusion, just regarding you having this thought that, okay, I'm stable because I'm of this machine. When you operate prudently outside of that, you're someone who is going to be limited, and it's going to be hard for you. It's going to be disadvantages just when it comes to the accumulation of wealth or relationships, business opportunities, social status, all because you're not operating in this credit-based system. That's been your trouble. Even myself, obviously, I operate in it because I was born in it. I have a social security number, I have a birth certificate. All this indicates you operating in this whole social strata, this whole economy, this whole setup or framework started from 1913, in which we're going to go into, especially with certain excerpts from that book, Creature from Jekyll Island. It's very important that we understand that book and we read that book. You guys should purchase that book on Amazon. Very, very, very important book to read. But I wanted to go to Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 7, because it's very important for us to understand this is all spiritual. All this stuff is spiritual. It's going into the prophetic aspect of this current world, just when it comes to what we know about the scriptures. So Proverbs 22 and 7 says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. We're servant to the lender. We're subject to the lender. We are the borrowers in regards to the creditees. And the creditor is the people that control this society. You know, they control the framework of this society economically, and we're subject to it. You know, we're subject to the Federal Reserve. If the Federal Reserve is destroyed, that's going to be the start of fixing a problem. You have to destroy the Federal Reserve because they keep printing the paper money. The paper money that's not backed by anything. When you keep printing it, that causes inflation. That's why you have all these prices of products that's going up and up and up and up and up because of inflation. Now, when it comes to the understanding of the mark of the beast and whatnot, that mark is going into the word charagma, which means to cut it into the flesh, because that's the RFID chip. That's a new form of currency that they're going to introduce just based off of how everything is going to unfold prophetically. But let's get more into it.